The detention facility on Crack 7 hummed with the sterile efficiency that characterized most Valorian operations. Commander Zekthor moved through the corridors with the confidence of someone who believed himself untouchable. The Valorian Empire had conquered 47 star systems, and humans were just another primitive species to be cataloged, studied, and exploited. In the observation deck, Jessica Chen pressed her face against the energy barrier, her breath creating small patches of condensation that quickly evaporated. At 8 years old, she had already spent 3 months in this cage, longer than she could remember being anywhere else. Around her, 23 other human children huddled together, their eyes hollow with a fear that no child should ever know. "They're going to come for us," whispered Marcus, a boy barely 6 years old. "My dad said humans always come." Jessica wanted to believe him. She had heard the stories before the raids. Stories of human resilience, of their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. But those stories felt distant now, like fairy tales told in another lifetime. James Hawkins stood on the bridge of the UNSC Resolute, staring at the tactical display with an expression carved from stone. The intelligence report had been clear: 24 children taken from the colony on Epsilon Tertius during a Valorian raid 6 months ago. The Galactic Council had issued a formal protest. The Valorian Empire had ignored it. "Captain," his first officer began carefully, "the Council has ordered us to maintain diplomatic channels. They say a military response would what, Commander Park?" James's voice was quiet, which his crew knew was more dangerous than shouting. "Would upset the delicate balance of power? Would make the Valorians angry?" He turned and his eyes held something that made hardened veterans step back. "They caged our children." Throughout human space, the response had been immediate and universal. Every colony, every station, every ship that could reach Crack 7 began moving. The Galactic Council scrambled to contain what they were calling an overreaction. They didn't understand. They couldn't, humans had a saying: "Mess with the bull, get the horns." But there was another saying, one whispered in the darker corners of space stations and alien marketplaces: "Never touch their young." The Valorians were about to learn why. Commander Zekthor was reviewing supply requisitions when the alarms began. His secondary eyes flickered to the tactical display, and his mandibles clicked in confusion. 27 human vessels had just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. Not military vessels, everything from cargo haulers to mining ships, all broadcasting the same message on every frequency: "Return the children." "This is absurd," Zekthor muttered. "We have 6 battlecruisers in orbit. What do they think they can do with mining equipment?" His tactical officer looked up, her scales pale with something that might have been fear. "Commander, the mining ship Prometheus is accelerating. They've redirected their ore processing laser toward..." The facility shook. Somewhere in the lower levels, alarms began to scream. Jessica grabbed Marcus as the cage's energy field flickered. Through the observation window, she could see Valorian guards running, their typically calm demeanor shattered by something she couldn't see. Then she heard it, a sound that made her heart leap with something she'd almost forgotten. A human voice, amplified through every speaker in the facility. "This is Captain James Hawkins of the UNSC Resolute. You have 30 seconds to release the children, or we will dismantle your station piece by piece. This is your only warning." Zekthor made his fatal mistake then. He believed in the superiority of Valorian military technology. He believed in the diplomatic immunity his empire's power afforded him. He believed that the Galactic Council would intervene before humans did anything truly catastrophic. He refused to release the children. What happened next would be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The humans didn't attack with overwhelming force. They didn't need to. Instead, they demonstrated something far more terrifying: precision, patience, and an absolutely implacable will. The mining ship Prometheus carved through the station's shields with equipment designed to crack asteroids. The cargo hauler Melbourne launched hundreds of cargo containers filled with mining explosives, each one piloted by remote drones that positioned themselves at critical structural points. The passenger liner New Hope, carrying 3,000 colonists who had diverted their journey, simply positioned itself between the station and the Valorian battle cruisers. "If you fire," Captain Hawkins informed the Valorian fleet, "you'll have to go through civilians. And if you're willing to do that, then we'll know exactly what kind of species we're dealing with, won't we?" The Valorian cruisers hesitated. In that hesitation, humanity showed its true nature. Jessica felt strong arms lifting her. A woman in a UNSC uniform, tears streaming down her face, was cutting through the cage's control panel with equipment that sparked and hissed. "We've got you, sweetheart. We've got all of you." "My name's Jessica," she whispered. "I know, honey. We know all your names." The woman's voice broke. "We never stopped looking." Commander Zekthor was arrested by his own people 3 hours later. The Valorian Empire, faced with a human armada that had grown to over 200 ships, civilian and military, alike, issued a formal apology and released every human prisoner in their custody. But the apology meant nothing compared to the message humanity had sent. On the Resolute, James Hawkins held Jessica on his hip as her parents ran crying toward them across the hangar bay. Around them, reunions played out with the raw emotion that only humans seem to express so freely. Other species found it unsettling, this intensity of feeling. James didn't care. He watched Jessica's father collapse to his knees, holding his daughter like she might disappear again. He watched Marcus being lifted by his mother, his small arms wrapped so tightly around her neck that it had to hurt. He watched and he remembered every second of the journey here, every decision that had brought them to this moment. An ambassador from the Galactic Council approached, mandibles clicking nervously. "Captain Hawkins, the Council wishes to discuss appropriate diplomatic responses to such situations in the future. There are protocols." James turned to face the alien, and his expression made the ambassador step back. "Ambassador, let me make something perfectly clear to you and to every species in this galaxy." He gestured to the children, to the crying parents, to the crews of mining ships and cargo haulers who had risked everything. "Humans have a lot of rules. We'll negotiate, we'll compromise, we'll talk for years if we have to. But there's one rule that supersedes everything else." He leaned forward and his voice carried across the hangar. "Don't touch our children." The universe remembered. In the years that followed, no species ever made that mistake again. The incident at Crack 7 became a legend, a story told in 1,000 languages across 10,000 worlds. Some species found it frightening, this intensity of human protective instinct. Others found it admirable. But every species, without exception, understood the message. Jessica Chen grew up to become a diplomat, working to build bridges between humanity and the stars. She never forgot her time in that cage, but more importantly, she never forgot the moment when dozens of ships arrived, when ordinary humans, miners and merchants and families, dropped everything to come for 24 children they'd never met. That, she would tell the alien students in her classes, was what it meant to be human. Not the weapons, not the ships, not even the courage. It was the absolute certainty that no one would be left behind. The universe remembered, and it would never forget.